Hello, my name is Darren Willis. I'm one of the full-time faculty members in the Industrial Technology Department, and I'd like to talk to you today about industrial drawing to make you familiar with our program. Of course, if the term is unfamiliar, industrial drawing is the production of technical documents for manufacturing, construction, and engineering. So making blueprints, basically. But this was the common way of getting things built, either in construction, architecture, or any of those other skilled trade areas. Blueprints gave way to white prints, and then white prints gave way to CAD drawings, but in the end we've got technical documentation produced by a drawing craftsman, if you want to think of it like that. In the past, these kinds of drawings were produced by individuals who had a high level of manual skill with specialized tools and equipment. And for a long time that did not change because it was the most efficient way to get these kinds of drawings done. Computers were expensive, and memory was very expensive, and processors were slow. And up until the early 80s, really, this was the best way to produce technical documentation. But then the 80s came along, and this room full of individuals with these big tables and tools could be replaced by maybe 10 people with desktop personal computers. And that's where we are now. The hand drawing aspect of the career has kind of faded for the most part, and most things are now done using computer systems. So same kind of drawing, same kind of documentation, just a different tool. The skills that a student picks up in the industrial drawing program include blueprint reading, and that's what the individual is doing here. Not drawing, but looking at the blueprint and interpreting it. And that might be needed for construction management. That might be needed for somebody in a purchasing or estimating role. That might be for someone doing bids. So even if we don't get involved with drawing things, having the skills to interpret the drawings is tremendously useful in a number of different skilled occupational areas. Of course, producing drawings and models in 3D is another important skill that the students learn. The traditional hand skills that students that have those hand skills, the hand skills translate into using the more advanced CAD tools, especially when it comes time to make the drawings in CAD. You become a better CAD operator by having some of these manual skills. These are the three different major skill sets we're trying to teach. The applicability of industrial drawing is very wide. Basically, any skilled trade needs drawings to work off of, and that's where we come in. It's also a recommended elective for the geology program. We have several local geologists and civil engineers that have taken our industrial drawing classes and regularly come in to tell our students about how useful what they learn in our class is to what they do in their science career. There are also degree connections for the industrial drawing classes. We know the BC Industrial Automation program is very popular and very well supported. These are some of the required classes to get into that program. We also have connections to the CSU system and the UC system. For engineering, some of the mechanical and civil engineering programs require that the students take some of our classes. Currently we have CSU transfer, specifically at Fresno, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Cal Poly SLO, Cal Poly Pomona, and San Diego State. All have agreed that at least one or more of our classes fulfills requirements on their campus and are easily translated back and forth in order to award credit. Currently in progress, we are working on UC transfer credit. We've got something for everybody. A short-term goal. They want to be in and out relatively quickly, well, we can take care of them. The student who has to be a year and a half, 2 years, we can take care of them. And also those that are looking for the degree or for transfer, well, we can take care of them too. So our Job Skills Certificate is 3 classes, it's 9 units, and this would be the course pathway for that: an introduction to CAD, an intermediate CAD, and an advanced CAD class. Our Certificate of Achievement asks the students to complete all of our industrial drawing classes, of course without having to focus or worry so much about the general ed classes. So without the gen ed involved, it's 21 units of coursework, easily done part-time in 2 years. 4 semesters. And for those students that want to get that AS degree, well, of course, we can accommodate that too. We have the 1 units of CAD classes. We ask them for a math class, intermediate algebra, if they want to transfer. We also ask them to take a fabrication class, so either machine tool process or cabinet making and furniture. And then an introduction to Microsoft Office, which is just a great class to have for general comfort on the computer and using it to do a number of things, not just draw. And then with that 28 units of Gen Ed, we look at about 58 units total. Usually students need 1 or 2 classes of the suggested electives in order to round that out. We also have a certification through one class, Industrial Drawing 42. Students take it. It's a 2-unit class. At the end of the class, they're ready to get an industry certification. Of course, we have students that take our classes because they're interested in industrial drawing, and that's their path. A lot of the students, though, probably the majority of them, are taking the classes because they have to. It's part of their degree pathway. They're in welding, they're in manufacturing, they're in automation, and they don't necessarily want to draw things, but they need to have some skills in our area in order to do well in their area. So for those students, I try to point out that it makes sense to maybe take more than the minimum, because the more skills we have, the more employable we are. We're able to do more advanced work. We're also able to use some of the cool tools that we have in our department, such as laser cutting systems and 3D printing. And of course, then it gives them a foot in the door to stand out a little bit, to learn how these specialized drawings for some of these subsections, like being electrical, civil, how these kinds of drawings are put together and what's expected if we go into one of those career fields. Traditional technical skill set is limited, of course. If all you have are CAD skills, you have a limited skill set. And, of course, that's not a bad thing. It's good to have skills, but that's the same for all of these different industrial technology classes. They give you a limited scope of skills. What I try to point out to some of my students that maybe only need to take one class area is that by adding the CAD skills, you've now broadened your hireability, your marketability. The chances for advancement or onboarding go up significantly when you've got that extra set of skills. And that would work for any of these industrial technology areas. It just makes us more employable, more valuable to engineering. It's the same thing. Engineering is a wonderful set of skills and knowledge, but when we add CAD skills to that, well, students stand out. They are able to get internship opportunities fulfilled more easily. They have increased employability because they are in higher demand. Many people leave university with an engineering degree. But when you apply for that internship, though, they're going to ask you, well, what else can you do? You know, I'm looking at 400 applications today. Everyone's completed a degree. What makes you stand out? And from what I have seen, this is what makes them stand out as engineers. I can go into the office, I can start working for you and be productive right away. What kinds of things are drawn in CAD? Well, everything is drawn in CAD. Anything that's manufactured, built, mechanical devices, land development, maps, architecture, construction, interior design, structural engineering, aerospace engineering, new products, piping systems, even clothing is drawn in CAD systems. Welding and structural drawings like this, electronics, sheet metal developments, weldments, mechanical devices, landscape design, and site development. All these things have to be on before they can be created. There is a wide variety of fields for students to go into once they have these skills. What's kind of exciting, though, is in the last several years, it's not just about making drawings. In fact, drawings are great, but they're not the end of the project, because now we can make things with CAD. We can take our CAD files to plasma cutters and cut pieces of metal. And this is great when we have to cut lots of things, or the same thing over and over very precisely. 3D printers, water jets, lasers, these things allow students to take their CAD files and actually make things from those files. The industrial drawing courses are broken into 3 areas. We have a few intro classes, we have intermediate, and we have advanced classes. Our intro class for all students that want to get into the main pathway to earn a certificate or degree is the industrial drawing B12 class, intro to drafting in CAD. So basic drafting, basic hand drawing, mechanical drawing, and some 2D CAD skills. Most of our technical certificates require the class. It would be useful in any STEM or technical field. And then the students are working on producing technical documents with sketching, through mechanical drawing, and then through using CAD software. Once that one class is complete, though, students have some options if they'd like to continue. They can continue in the intermediate CAD classes. The Industrial Drawing 20A is intermediate CAD. They take that basic knowledge that they learned in the B12 class and they deepen it and broaden it to focus on what does industry need. It's 2D drawing and design. It's also 3D modeling. And then the 3D modeling and the 2D drawing lend themselves to doing things like laser cutting and 3D printing. At the end of this course, students that have solidly performed are actually ready to go to work. I know our certificate is 3 classes, but a student that does well by the end of this class is ready for employment. The kinds of drawings they do are things that are more advanced, things they would be expected to draw as entry-level CAD detailers or drafters. And then of course we have our laser cutting system, and students have a lot of freedom to design their own projects and work. We have our 3D printing system, and same thing, we do lots of mechanical design stuff, but we have some fun stuff we make too. And then we get engineering students who want to change the world and make it a better place. We can make mechanical prosthetic hands that actually actuate and work. As the limit when you have 3D printing as a resource. The Industrial Drawing 50 class is process piping, so it's another intermediate class. It takes those basic CAD skills and gives them what they would need to get a foot in the door for the petroleum field. Processing like dryers or Frito-Lay, or chemical engineering. And for our welding students, this is a natural connection because they take a pipe layout class in the welding program to be able to draw these kinds of things. This is huge, and of course just a set of skills that makes them stand out. So there's a lot of different kinds of drawings in this field. This is one kind of drawing. This is another kind of drawing, and those are very different kinds of drawings. But electrical design is their next area of intermediate CAD, and they take the basic CAD class, and then they can build on that, learning how to draw out electrical circuits, programmable logic controllers, making panel drawings, circuit diagrams, ladder diagrams. Electrical drafting happens to be the fastest growing field for new drafting hires. Two more intro classes that are very different from all the classes we've seen up to this point, because up to this point everything has relied on a program called AutoCAD, which is basically a 2D drawing tool for making technical documents. These two classes teach students how to use a 3D modeling tool, and in Industrial Drawing 40 they're using a product called Autodesk Inventor. In Industrial Drawing 42 they learn how to use a product called SolidWorks, and I've grouped them together because the programs are very similar. You're going to see that the models they make are very similar. There's no prerequisite for either of these classes. These are 3D modeling for mechanical and industrial design. The Industrial Drawing 40 class is part of our certificate and degree, and our Industrial Drawing 42 class leads to an industry certification. So this would be a no-brainer kind of class for people that are going to make things or want to design things. So for welding, manufacturing, woods and cabinet, automation, engineering, all of these students should be involved in taking at least one of these classes. So instead of drawing lines and circles and arcs, make a typical drawing like some of the other CAD software does, what we're doing here is we're making 3D parts, and those 3D parts go together into 3D assemblies. And then when it's time to make the drawings, the program draws the stuff for you. These assemblies of 3D parts, of course, can be as complicated or as simple as we need them to be. And you can even run animations to see, do the parts work like we expect them to? Are they going to behave like we thought? When we add motion, how do things operate or actuate? Do things really fit together and work the way we wanted them to? Here's our Industrial Drawing 20B class, Advanced AutoCAD. This is a productivity class. Students are expected by the end of this class to be a highly productive member of the workforce. So they learn how to do some customization of the CAD interface. They learn how to work with complex CAD objects. They also learn how to do some programming inside the AutoCAD interface. This turns the student into a CAD ninja. So while students are ready to maybe get a job after the second AutoCAD class, by the time they take this, they are very valuable to an employer. We have another advanced level industrial drawing class. It's civil drafting and geographic information systems. This would be a class for those interested in going into civil engineering or working with surveyors, working in the land development field, doing mapping. So the kinds of drawings that we do are of large things. The land and break it into smaller lots for development and add roads and infrastructure. And we take surveyors' data to create the drawings, and then when the drawings are done, we're able to send out the heavy equipment and the infrastructure people, and then when we're all done, we've got our little beautiful neighborhood. Some of these courses are offered year-round. Industrial Drawing 12, 20A, and 20B, the three classes that make up the certificate, are offered each semester. The one summer offering we have is the intro class. Some of these other specialization classes are only offered either fall or spring, so this would help you to see how things line up as you're scheduling students and trying to come up with an ed plan for them. In simple terms, I share this with the students. Our Job Skills Certificate is a slam dunk. It's 3 classes. Our Certificate of Achievement is the 7 classes, the 7 CAD classes. We have our SolidWorks class that leads right into certification. A.S degree would be the CAD classes on the left, our Gen Ed, our Intro to Microsoft Office, and then one of our fabrication classes in industrial technology. Requisites are laid out here too, graphically. Easier to follow along maybe for some. And our pathway is easily completed within the 2 years part-time if we were looking for that Certificate of Achievement. I do encourage students to go to the Program Mapper. I like to show them how that works. So going on Program Mapper and going down to the Industrial Technology and Transportation tab, we've got the 3 different things that we offer. Our low unit certificate is that Industrial Drawing AutoCAD Job Skills Certificate. The pathway that's been laid out has some problems though. There shouldn't be a 1 semester gap here. First, second, and third term, students should be able to knock it out in 3 terms, one right after the other. Looking at the higher unit certificates, if we go over to industrial drawing, this doesn't look too bad here. This works out pretty good, and it lines it up with the correct semesters, so students are taking the right things at the right time. For the associate's degree, we have the industrial drawing A.S degree, and I've been over this with the counseling department, worked with Bryn to make sure that what's laid out here matches up with what the expectations are for the student. So Program Mapper lays it out fairly well. I invite you to come by. We're over in the glorious MS building. This is one of our CAD labs in the MS building. This is our second CAD lab in the MS building. This is our laser cutting station. This would be our Fortis 3D printer. This is our architecture and industrial drawing, traditional drawing room. Happy to help and answer any questions that you might have about our program. Feel free to get in touch with us anytime. My name is Darren Willis, and I thank you for your attention.